27th, 2012 Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Good evening and welcome. The Commission's here tonight to work together with all of you, property owners, neighbors, and architects, to continue the tradition that was established nearly 40 years ago in this community. That tradition is a review process that allows community members to work together to preserve the qualities of the unique character that make and the unique character that make Lake Forest a special community. City of Lake Forest is committed to conducting open and democratic meetings. To achieve that goal, meeting procedures have been adopted by the Commission, and a copy of the procedures is available at the back of the room on each agenda. As always, it's the intent of the Commission to help manage the development and growth of the City of Lake Forest with a keen sense of preserving the historic structures and open space in the city for all its present and future residents. Our goal is to move each petition before us tonight through the review process as quickly as possible while balancing the interests of the petitioners, neighboring property owners, and the larger community. And we'll start this evening with an introduction of the commissioners.
Susan Athenson.
John Travers.
Bill Ransom.
Kurt Pairitz.
Fred Moyer.
And we have welcome, John. We have a new commission member this evening starting with us, so we appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to your participation. And as a part of that, we have a departure of a former commissioner, Commissioner Guy Berg, who has served with us for 6 years, and then prior to that with the BRB, and I think there was an overlap, but I think altogether over 11 years of service. I was quickly making a list with Kathy of all of the petitions that you've been involved with and helped with, and so I have that exhaustive list here, and I'm just going to start and read through the whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. It's quite impressive, though, and it goes on, and particularly lots of subcommittee involvement, and really too extensive to go on and on with. But Guy's approach, he brought an informed point of view. He's a practicing architect here in Lake Forest, and we don't get enough of those guys to help us. Very sensitive, always very positive approach. I think that's the number one thing that I will take away from Guy's participation. He always was looking at the solutions with an eye towards how would this be better, and he wasn't necessarily looking at it as just to be critical, and also knew when to practice restraint, which I really did appreciate as well. So Guy will be hard to get along without. We'll have big shoes to fill, John, but anyway, I have a retired no, I'm just kidding. I have a plaque for you, and so come on up, Guy, and we'll give this to you. They literally are going to let you keep the name tag, just in case. Thanks, Guy, and don't be surprised if you get an email from us. All right, we have a business item for this evening. We have one petition that I'm aware of. It is a new petition. Oh, I'm sorry. We have another one. We have approval of the meeting minutes, two items for this evening. So we have meeting minutes from the last meeting, which is the May 23rd meeting. And I will ask if anybody has any comments or questions with respect to those minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Fred and I were the only ones at that meeting who are here this evening. So.
All right, so unless you or Fred have any problems. Kathy, I think you had a point of order for us?
You can still vote even if you weren't there, so
we will.
It's fine. You don't need a full quorum.
All right.
I didn't find any problems with my review.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I would move to approve the minutes as proposed.
All right, the motion's been made by Commissioner Ransom. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moyer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? And so that passes unanimously, Kathy. All right, consideration of a request for certificate of appropriateness for landscaping and garden features, including a reflecting pool and temple at 500 North Green Bay Road. I'll ask the commissioners if anybody has any conflict on this item, and I
Nope.
see none, so please come on up and tell us what you got.
Hello, good evening. Hi, my name is Lance Berman. I'm from Berman Design Group, and I come here tonight to discuss a formal garden design and implementation at 500 North Green Bay Road. So Jim and Vicki Mills purchased the adjacent lot in the early fall of 2011. This added approximately 0.77 acre to their existing lot. Their home at 500 North Green Bay Road was built in 1895 for David Benton Jones and designed by Henry Ive Cobbs. It is known as the David Benton Jones House or Pembroke Hall. At the time, it was a large estate running west and ending where Route 41 currently resides. I cannot determine at what time this was subdivided or sold off by the original family. Cannot determine if there is any relevance in today's project. This shows the, I don't know if you can see this very clearly, but this shows the existing plat of survey with the adjacent lot to the right-hand side or east, which you all have the same sort of thing in your book. The purpose of the project was to create something grand which would designate the new lot addition as part of the original home estate. We were approached this spring and asked to create a formal garden space with elements. The elements added to the project were a reflection pond and a temple placed approximately in the middle of the lot. It's called a temple, however, it really is just a stone gazebo with a roof. There is no religious reference to that. That's the product that it's called through the designer or builder Haddon. The elements added, let's see, the temple being placed in the rear vista is at the end of a rise which exists in the lot. This temple creates a frivolous feeling which enlivens the senses. The temple is made to order from Haddon stone and constructed of cast stone with a fiberglass dome, which will be the same color as the temple, meaning it's painted a natural stone color to match the stone or mimic stone. Color specified is natural, which will match the existing residence. The reflection pond shall be void of any water movement and shall be have minimal filter equipment for cleaning of the water only. The pool shall have a deep black plaster finish. The pool equipment pad has been located to the rear of the temple, as this places the pool equipment furthest from both adjoining residences. And since it is a reflection pond, not a standard pool, minimal noise and run times will be observed and shall be screened with a small yew hedge, which will be allowed to grow natural over time. Excessive water would be detrimental to existing trees, which has been a concern from the beginning, and therefore the planting selected contained mostly roses and boxwoods, which will require much less water than multiple perennial plantings. The boxwoods will be installed and sheared to create a formal hedge garden and shall be approximately kept 24 inches tall. Minimal grade change has been implemented for the formality with the leveling of the pool decking and shall not exceed 12 inches, which has been discussed with Mike Glomsky and staff members. No large trees are removed and shall not have any major excavation within the root zones. Scrub and smaller undergrowth will be removed for this project, with the existing area that is maintained closest to the house being maintained in the same manner. And the rear portion of the property shall have a no-mow grass planted in the understory of the trees. This will create an open woodland, which will offset the uniqueness of the formal garden. The Green Bay fence line will receive a planting to complement with a mixture of Norway spruce, hawthorns, viburnum, and miscellaneous understory type plants. Lighting will be minimal, with the temple interior receiving a soft wash and the pool being lit with 5 sidewall lights. The western edge of the lot shall be turf grass with bluestone walks to access the garden. The existing center island in the driveway has been removed to eliminate the existing isolation of the lot and now has a circle added, which creates an axis that exists between the residence exit doorways and centers on this lot. The existing marble statue that is in the existing island will be located in the new driveway island layout and will only have turf grass within this island. Driveway material shall remain in its current Merrimack gravel and with the removed areas being covered to match. The connection between the existing estate and the proposed garden can best be described as how 2 distinct and separate design approaches can complement one another through their relationship in architecture. The late 1800 Cobb colonial architecture best correlates with the formal design of the garden. Both the house and the proposed garden elements project strong lineal lines vertically and horizontally. This in turn commands direction and focus on 2 distinct focal points, the architecture of the estate and the design of the garden. The estate setting best correlates with the country and formal approach noted by the garden's perennial spaces and knot gardens, which was standard for most large estates of the period. The wooden lot creates a natural setting, which in turn helps bring the design of the garden into context with its surroundings and existing site features, while blending the informal characteristics of the garden with the more formal design elements. In addition to the utilization of the two design approaches, the use of similar building material helps unify both spaces. The natural stone used in the construction of the residence is repeated with similar natural stone construction of garden walks, temple construction, and a low retaining wall. Typically, a garden design such as this would be placed on axis with points drawn from the residence or other features. However, it is not on axis and is simply stated as by saying it is on axis with itself. The overall design objective was to create a garden space that is separate and yet would feel connected spatially, not physically. This was done by allowing both spaces to complement each other through the utilization of specific design elements. The natural stone building materials used in the construction of the temple and the walks of bluestone are similar to those used in the construction of the residence. Site constraints do not allow the garden design to be placed on axis with the residence. However, the garden was designed to allow access from either the south or north walkway, which connects access from either the kitchen side of the home or the main entrance of the home. This shows the layout of the existing parking area with the overlay of the new circle added, showing it on axis with the garden space, and you have a copy of that as well. The axis of the garden is not oriented based on not orientated based on cardinal direction, but on vistas. The design makes use of borrowed scenery, features from the garden, and elements within the garden that are incorporated into the design. This shows an overview of the design, basically what it would look like from a perspective. You have a copy of that. The removal of the courtyard parking area is important because it's one of the one piece that connects both elements, the architecture of the residence and the design of the garden. The existing courtyard space is overplanted and dated with no direct relationship to the residence, other than a functional space to park cars. With the introduction of the circular courtyard and a design buffer, it is created that links both elements, the architecture and the garden. The link to the garden is created by design shape and repetition of plant material, and with the utilization of barrier curbs, this space then becomes connected with the driveway. The removal and redesign of the courtyard creates a more open feeling and allows one to see the garden layout upon exiting the residence from either front exit. This also shows the layout of the garden design, what it would look like, with the temple being in the far east side, service barriers in the background to create a more natural feel. Arborvitae hedges on both sides running the length of the project. The formal gardens reflect in pool, two small knot gardens, and then on the right it shows the layout of the garden and walks on the existing lot. One way to impose one's will upon nature is by constructing the plants in one's landscape or garden design to conform to a layout that has a kind of geometric precision. The natural landscape, by contrast, is rather chaotic from an artistic standpoint. Nothing is even, there are lots of rough edges, and one type of plant grows willy-nilly right next to the other, regardless of proportion or other garden design considerations. By the very definition of garden design, we would work to improve upon this arrangement when we engage in landscaping work. But the geometric style, or what is better known as formal garden design, goes beyond mere improvement. One might characterize it as an improvement with an attitude. In formal garden design, content becomes subservient to form. That is, nature supplies the plants, the content, but we apply such rigid guidelines in their arrangement, the form, that most of the attention is drawn to the form. Our own handiwork becomes the star of the show, while the plants play supporting roles. The plants chosen to support such a composition traditionally have been, predictably, the ones that are easiest to work with. One plant that conforms well to a pattern of geometric patterns is boxwood. Boxwoods can easily be molded into well-behaved hedges that conform to whatever form we wish to impose upon them, be it a circle, straight line, etc. In formal gardens, a series of carefully arranged and maintained boxwood hedges can be the whole garden. It is not a style much given to variety, nor do flowers assume a central role. Here's an example of some boxwood hedges. We would be planting shrub roses in the middle of those. Simple design works well in this space. The beds are filled with just a few species. The boxwood hedge topiary add height and sense of scale to the design. while the shrub roses provide an elegant focus to the central line created by the stone walks and the reflecting pool. The garden uses color and strict lines to command a strong view towards the focal point of the garden, the pool, and the temple. And there's an example of the temple. Now this temple shows a offsetting color on the roof, the fiberglass dome, whereas the temple we have proposed has the same color as the stone. We currently have no knowledge depicting what type of garden was originally on site at 500 North Green Bay Road. We can only make an educational guess based on the history of the site that some part of the garden existed. Late 1800 architecture and estate planning relied heavily on English influence, both in architecture and garden design. It was the height of the Romantic period, where English cottage gardens evolved mixed with classical design elements. A blending of design approaches was common. English cottage gardens, with their wild abundance of rose bushes, perennial flowers, vine-covered arbors, and plants tumbling over walkways, were widely emulated in the U.S. This is an informal style meant to evoke a mood of lighthearted gaiety. The eye feasts on a diverse jumble of flowering plants distributed in a seemingly haphazard manner, evoking thought of a natural landscape. The plants themselves are just as important as their use in the overall composition, and the wildness of the arrangement is meant to suggest a closer communion with nature. With English gardens becoming popular in America, large estates were being developed on large natural tracts of land. Being immersed in nature, they wanted more formality in the garden. This is when we begin to see the influence of classical garden design and the informal traits of the English garden blend together. It was a time where two distinct design approaches were utilized together in developing some of the best garden designs of the time. The function of the estate garden was unique, typically never placed on axis with the architecture of the site, but rather on its own axis, typically located adjacent to the home. With the influence of history and its remarkable ability to repeat itself, we have to ask, is the Mills project a form of restoration or design? Design being the best suited since the entire property is no longer intact. We can only envision what the site may look like. With this in mind, we can only hope to revitalize a portion of history and stay as close to an era as possible by creating an aesthetically pleasing space for the Mills to enjoy. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a staff report for this, Megan?
Thank you, Chairman Pairitz. This property is a contributing property within the district. Several years ago, I believe some of the commissioners here may have been on the commission when an attached garage was reviewed. For this project, there are no changes to the main house. It's really a landscape project that came about as a result of a recently consolidated property with land to the east of the main house. The items before the commission this evening are a review of what was identified on the agenda as a temple. I would like to just clarify that and the petitioner touched on this, that is just a folly. It's an architectural focal point in the garden with using classical detailing. The use of the property will remain residential as it currently is. We did receive some phone calls about that, so I just wanted to clarify for the record. Other elements proposed this evening are a reflecting pool, the formal gardens that were discussed, as well as overall landscaping for the newly acquired area of the property. I would say overall the project is consistent with the standards in the Historic Preservation Ordinance. The petitioner did a thorough review of the packet information that's before you this evening. I'd like to focus my comments more on the conditions of approval that are recommended in the staff report. The overall intent of the project to establish a formal garden I think is appropriate for the site. There is some clearing of the underbrush on the property to allow the proper setting for that type of formal garden. There's a condition of approval in the staff report relating to the area immediately in front of Green Bay Road to really allow an area of the property to reestablish or preserve the wooded character of Green Bay Road. So recognizing that there might need to be some depth to the clearing on the property, just making sure as this project moves forward that they're working closely with the city arborist and preserving a certain area of natural vegetation along the road. The second condition that I want to go over is regarding lighting. The intent of this project is to install minimal landscape lighting to allow the the architectural feature in the garden and the pool to be illuminated in a subtle manner. There have been some lights installed on the property without the benefit of a permit. As part of this project, the petitioner has agreed to remove the lights. They've turned off the lights so that that intent can really become reality. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, but we are recommending approval with those conditions, as well as a couple standard conditions regarding a staging plan, given the shared driveway with the other properties along Green Bay Road. Thanks.
All right, and now is the opportunity for commission members to ask questions of either the staff or the petitioners, if we have any. And Megan, I have one question for you. I think it's in respect to one of your conditions. I'm having trouble finding it at the moment. Hang on a second, bear with me. Here it is. Landscape plan shall identify a 50-foot buffer from Green Bay Road. What about the distance from the, is it the intention, I see on this one sketch, the perspective, the isometrics are actually perspective sketch, if you want to show that real quick. We can flip back to that one. Yeah, keep going. That's the one. It's hard to see on this image, but this shows mature trees surrounding the cleared area where the formal garden will be, and it implies that those mature trees will continue up both sides. And I'm wondering, you know, the materials we have don't really reflect the actual conditions for the mature trees. So is it the intent that there will be a buffer remaining between this property and the adjacent property to the north and south?
There's an existing row of arborvitae hedge that's been started, and we're going to continue that down both sides and end at the farthest east point being the edge of the temple. So there will still be a buffer there. No large trees are being removed. All existing ones stay in place.
So the way that this is rendered, where there's large trees beyond the new plantings, is that accurate?
I believe there's more trees on the right-hand side of this drawing that are not shown on that drawing, based just so you could open up and you'd be able to get a better perspective of what it would look like. In fact, I know there's larger trees. If you look at the, if we go to this slide, every dot on there denotes the major trees, anything over 10 inches.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I have a question for city staff. We're just approving generally a concept of, but not the actual landscaping, and we're approving the concept of lighting, but not the actual lighting plan. I mean, we don't have detailed plans on either of those things, and I'm just trying to get a handle on what it is we're approving. I don't feel real comfortable saying, yeah, I'll approve a minimal lighting plan, but we have no idea what that may be.
Certainly the plan before you is presented for approval. If there are questions regarding the lighting, I would encourage you to ask the petitioner to get clarification. If additional information is needed, we can certainly work with the petitioner to gather that information and bring it back to you.
Okay. Petitioner, what does minimal lighting mean?
Minimal lighting means the temple shall receive a small low-voltage lighting up in the interior of the dome to give it a wash, to give it a glow in the distance. The pool, the reflection pool itself has 5 lights in it to give it a glow as well. Other than that, there's no path lights proposed, no overhead lights, no uplights at all.
So just the lighting in the temple and then the reflecting pool?
Correct.
Okay.
And I would
Sure,
like to
please,
make.
John.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to make a note that the existing lights that were in question have been totally, entirely removed.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
I had a question for staff, and this was relative to the fiberglass dome, which is 10 feet in diameter and 4 feet high. Does the city engineering staff have familiarity with these types of domes and how they might sound in a heavy rain, or if there's hail, and what their useful life might be, and how they'll hold paint and look over time? In general.
In general, I would say from a construction standpoint, this is actually a prefabricated piece. So the construction element would be to follow the manufacturer's specs. With respect to the character of the sounds that it makes, how it feels, I think those questions could better be responded to by the petitioner.
I can't say I've ever stood underneath one to have any idea. It will be hollow. It will not be stone. I'd imagine it would be a lot less noisy than a copper roof, which would probably be what, somebody would put on it if they spent a lot more money. It does come manufactured that way. Other than that, I can't attest to sound or longevity. I know fiberglass used painted with UV paint will not deteriorate. I don't know what the life expectancy of such would be. I'd imagine in excess of 50 years.
Thank you.
Fred?
You may have just answered the question I was going to ask, which is, what is the material of the roof? Did I hear you say fiberglass?
Correct. It's a preformed fiberglass. It's put together in multiple panels. I believe there's 6 panels that get bolted together and bolted to the existing stone structure.
And the color is not integral to the fiberglass?
No, the color matches the stone of the temple, the natural stone color of the temple.
But did you say that would be painted?
Correct. It's painted at the factory with a color that's to match the stone of the temple.
And what do they represent the lifespan of that paint to be? How long can it be expected to stay there? I think that was already asked, perhaps, but I'll ask it again. I didn't catch the answer.
Yeah, I don't believe it would be an issue. I mean, as far as wearing off fast, it's done from a factory in a very enclosed environment.
So Fred, I would expect that to be the same kind of finish that's used on fiberglass windows, which is a coated finish, which is, typically, 20-year kind of lifespan for that kind of thing. And then, it's easily repainted, but it does become a maintenance item after that.
Okay.
Sometimes more, depends on how much sun it gets probably. But I mean, I think that would be a normal kind of process for that manufactured kind of product.
Okay.
Correct. I would believe as it wore, it would add character to the building. The mills, even though who knows how long they'll keep the property, 20, 50 years. I don't know. They are very astute on keeping up their property and maintaining it respectfully. I don't think that they'd let it deteriorate to the point.
Another question, does the dome come in one piece, or are there separate pieces that get assembled, and if so, how are they connected?
They are connected. They are 6 pieces. I believe they're 6 pieces, and they're connected with stainless steel bolts, and then they're connected with J-bolts, which are impregnated into the concrete that's poured as the temple's being built.
Okay, and are the connections concealed from view?
Yes.
Do the ribs cover them? We see ribs in the illustration. Do the
Correct.
connections occur underneath the ribs?
They are underneath the ribs. However, those ribs are nothing more than a sealing to prevent water from penetrating down in between the pieces.
Right. And the ribs are applied after the connections are made?
The ribs are impregnated into the fiberglass and built at the factory. The seam on the underside and the bolts themselves are covered with fiberglass and a finish on site.
So there are no exposed fasteners?
No.
In the image that you get?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
I just want to go back to your objective for a little bit. Is the objective of this to frame the view of the house from Green Bay Road, or is it to give the home a view looking out their front?
A view from the home out towards the garden.
Okay.
And as you approach.
Okay, because I noticed when I'm driving down Green Bay Road, there is kind of a break there, and you kind of have a really, actually, I think it's kind of cool to see this house, glimpse of the house, because you see the original one. But okay, so that gives me kind of a way to go here. So are you removing the fence on Green Bay Road, or are you leaving it? No, so it's staying there, because it wasn't, I didn't see it in your plan here, but it's still there. Okay.
I believe the fence is consistent with the adjacent properties.
Yeah, it seems to
would
be
remain.
continuous, yeah, okay.
And then staff had appeared to have a comment in reference to
Advancing
adding more
that.
landscaping on the Green Bay side that we
Right,
had not
absolutely.
proposed, being as part of one of the criteria for
Right.
the project.
Which Right, okay, so I would, encourage you to do that. When it was staked out at the property, it was kind of hard for me to really get a sense of it with the pink tape you had, but it did seem that there would be several trees that might be impacted by some work there, particularly on the left side there. I think there's an oak there that would be really close to the edge, and there's also almost like, it looked like 3 trees together. I think it was a maple. You don't anticipate any kind of problems with these mature trees with
No,
excavating?
typically the most damage you see is from overwatering. That's why we selected the plants that we did.
Okay.
Slight excavation under the oaks were not a problem, and we met with Mike on site and actually at the village office, and he did not really believe there would be an impact either.
Okay.
Such as I have quite a background in horticulture, and as long as the plants are not overwatered and water is not applied on a constant basis, that appears to do a lot more damage than any excavation under actual oaks. If you look, as you drive down the road, you'll see many large existing oaks, hundreds of years old, where they actually cut swales out, drainage swales right next to those oaks. Those oaks live, nothing happens to them. Yet you go on residential properties where they cover turf right up to the plants, and that seems to do more damage.
Okay, is there going to be a sprinkler system?
On there, yes, on the turf in the very front part, there, I believe there already is some irrigation that they keep the grass watered.
Okay. And what exactly will the courtyard be? You didn't really specify that. You're removing those big, what is it, arborvitae in that center there?
Correct, and reducing the curb will replicate the curb that's existing, and it will just be a circle of grass with a small statue in the middle.
Oh, okay.
With the existing statue that they have on their center island remaining.
Just grass and a statue, okay.
Correct.
And have you discussed these plans with the neighbors?
I believe that the Mills have discussed them with the people that, I know they've discussed them with the Belias that live next door, and the people that live in the original coach house that's next door. I know they've talked to them. I believe they've talked to them. As far as the others, I know I believe they're sent a letter as far as referencing this project.
Okay, because I noticed where you're putting the pool equipment is in the back there, and that hum might impact them a little bit. I'm wondering how they feel about that, but, okay.
Well, it was chosen for that space respectively for both neighbors by putting it in the back there. And it is a reflection pond with very minimal runtime. It will be on probably, I believe, 6 to 8 hours a day. It would be during the day. I don't believe it would be allowed. It's not standard pool equipment that's going to
Okay.
have 3 or 6, 1 horsepower motors. It's strictly to clean the water. It's a shallow pool, 18 inches.
Okay. Okay. That's
Any
it.
other questions to the petitioner and staff? Okay, well, now is the time for any public input, if we have any. Does anyone have any public testimony on this agenda item? And I see none. All right. Thank you for that. And we've got opportunity to deliberate. If anyone has any deliberations. This is a fairly introspective plan and such that it doesn't really have a lot of impact on the neighbors, which was why I was asking the questions about mature trees to the north and the south. It's hard, I think, probably we would have preferred a little more information about the house to see if the structure and the actual garden design dovetailed well with the home. So we're using a little bit of our own memory from driving out and looking at it and looking at this to do that. But it also is not like it's right next to it. It's far away. So I understand the spirit of it. I understand the that it's in the same genre of architecture, if you will. So I don't really have any real problems with it. I probably would have preferred to see a little more detail on the planning plan, but I'm also not offended that it's not there. So I think that the staff is basically asking for that detail for their review, and that's a good condition, I think. The lighting, I think, is subtle, and so I don't really have any impact, problem with a little bit of light under that dome and the light of the reflecting pool. What do you guys think about this?
I'm just concerned about the impact on the neighbors with the lighting and the noise. So maybe once the lighting's installed, if you can just check on it and ensure that it's not impacting the neighbors in a negative way. Especially the screening along Green Bay Road is going to be necessary. It's unfortunate to lose that kind of glimpse of the manor house as you drive by, but if you're going to stay consistent with the screening all the way down Green Bay, I guess it is necessary.
I'm just thinking it would be nice to see the temple as you drive by, but I think the existing fence is going to stay in place and landscaping either side. It becomes a private event for the owner, which is also appropriate. So, but I think it's elegant and it's an attractive element in the landscape. That's why it'd be nice to actually see it. It's not a criticism, by the way, of the proposal, but for those driving up Green Bay to have soft illumination of that element at night would be very attractive. I don't think they're going to see it, however.
Well, I believe I've tried to see the house, and you can only see the very upper second story of the house as you drive down Green Bay Road.
Yep.
And prior to them purchasing the house, it was all closed off with arborvitae, or prior to them purchasing that lot, you couldn't even see the house at all. They had a big arborvitae hedge there, and so they did open it up, and now the people do get a glimpse of the house, and I agree that is nice. I believe in the winter you'll still be able to see a portion, you'll still be able to see the house back there. You know, we're not going to block that off too badly, except the staff requirements of additional landscaping to be consistent with what exists on Green Bay Road, to create more of a wooded feel as you drive along Green Bay Road.
Any other deliberations from commissioners? Nope. All right, I'll ask if anyone's got a motion then.
I move we approve the plan as presented with the staff recommendations, and also just enhancing the screening, checking on lighting and noise. Anything else?
I think that's right. I think you just want to reflect the lighting comments in the design. And the motion's been made by Commissioner Athenson. All in favor say aye.
Seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in such a hurry to get outside. And
Enjoy the
so the motion's been made and seconded by Commissioner Moyer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. That one passes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And
You
now
changed
is
your
the opportunity for the public to address the Historic Preservation Commission on non-agenda items. If there are any of those, please come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Pairitz, members of the commission, Ms. Cernak. Michael Rashowski, 648 Waveland Road, Michael Rashowski Company. I was bouncing through channels a little while ago and always stop at 17 and saw that Guy Berg was leaving us, and I rushed over thinking he might be here, but I certainly have to stand up and say a few words about Guy Berg as a representative of the community in general and the architectural community of Lake Forest. It's been my pleasure to present numerous projects over, I don't know, it has to be 10 years.
11.
To Guy, 11 years to Guy Berg and the Building Review Board and the Historic Preservation Commission. And I've told people for years, they ask me who's the best, who's the most talented in Lake Forest, and without a doubt I tell them Guy Berg is the most talented. We've had the opportunity to have him on the boards and to have his advice from the best, making our projects, I think, better than we could alone. Guy Berg also was one of those people that had the unique talent. I think he had the capability to talk down to most all of us. But Guy Berg didn't do that. Guy Berg had the unique talent of being able to talk to you like you understood what he was talking about and never talk down. Very, very unique talent. We're going to miss him. I think the community in general, the architectural community especially, is going to miss him. I think the community in general needs to understand what his contribution has been over this past 11 years. And I know we'll continue to see his work around town, and I hope he's there so that us lesser towns can reach out and get his advice. So I know he's left a great board here, with a lot of talent to carry on, the staff incredibly talented to advise us, and so continued success. And to Guy Berg, thank you sincerely for all your time and efforts and talent dedicated to the city of Lake Forest. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that, and I'm sure Guy appreciates that as well. So. Any other public comment from non-agenda items? And I see none. So we'll ask if there's any other additional information from the staff. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved and seconded by, it's moved by Commissioner Ransom, seconded by Commissioner Athenson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you and good night.